You know when you've been feeling unwell or ill and you feel miserable, and then you have that day, that one day when you feel normal again. And on that day, feeling normal feels wonderful. Because our experience is often relative, to go from miserable and unwell to normal feels like you're on top of the world. And I think recovery is often viewed this way as well. This idea that if you have been struggling with binging for years and this has it's left such a mark on your life, that you imagine, or if you're anything like me, you would, I imagined, gosh, if I stop binge eating, I am going to feel on top of the world. I'm going to have such good energy. And not just that, I would be a completely different person if I wasn't this person who's weighed down by this problem of binging. Today I've got some good news for you, and I've also got some bad news for you. And the bad news is there is a very, very boring aspect to recovering from binge eating. But the good news is when we recognize this side of recovery that isn't this fantasy, this idealized view of who we'll be and how we would feel on the other side of binge eating, then it actually makes recovery become more possible. Any reputable and evidence-based binge eating treatment program will include one very boring aspect of binge eating recovery, and that is 3 meals a day, often 3 snacks, but certainly the 3 meals a day, your anchor meals. Called anchor meals because you drop your anchor 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch and dinner, and you feed your body. And that requires some food planning. I can't tell you the number of times a client has come to me and maybe they've been doing quite well, but they've been having a difficult time recently and they're trying to figure out why food just seems to be all over the place again. And when I ask about anchor meals, so often they haven't even realized that has fallen away. Maybe they're kind of following it, but they're trying to figure out as they go along what they're going to have for breakfast, lunch and dinner. But if it's already lunchtime and you're already hungry and you don't know what you want and you don't know what you've got in or what you can prepare or what you've got time for, it creates a kind of confusion and stress about food decisions, which often makes the food choices and even just your experience of your appetite go awry. For the majority of us, maybe not the majority, but certainly many of us, having to think about food and feed our bodies 3 times a day gets kind of boring and it gets old fast. But when you've gone from a period of time where you've been binging and food's been all over the place and you start to regulate and you're putting in your anchor meals, maybe you're working through some emotional stuff that's going on, you feel great. You're like, wow, I'm not binging anymore. This feels amazing. But like coming out of being ill and then feeling normal again, it gets old really quickly. And then these kinds of things tend to fall away. There are some people out there who love preparing food and they enjoy nourishing their bodies and looking after their bodies. But for many of us, it's a bit of a chore. Having a human body that we have to look after, we have to wash it, clothe it, feed it, move it, deal with aches and pains or illness, all the things that come along with having a human body. So much of that just isn't fun. And so yes, I'm not suggesting that the answer to binge eating is just eating your 3 meals a day. For some people it is, but for a lot of people there's an emotional aspect as well. And this is where it gets challenging because the more stressed we are, or the more we are in an anxious mood or a depressed mood, the less likely we are to want to do the boring things about looking after our bodies. So sometimes the psychological and emotional work is around our relationships with ourselves, because if you don't like yourself and if you don't like your body, it can become hard to feel like you want to take care of this body. You just want it to be different. You don't want to have to take care of it, especially if it doesn't even start to look different, or if you're not seeing immediate improvements in your energy or your health. And on the flip side, when you're doing the emotional work or when things are just going well, and so you feel like you're in a really good place, often food gets easier. And so there can be a little bit of a trap here. The trap can be, if I just self-actualize enough, if I just improve myself enough to the place where I'm managing my emotions, or I'm just feeling positive the majority of the time, then the binge eating will just fall away. And that's very compelling for people who are kind of stuck in that sort of self-improvement, almost like an addiction to self-improvement and making myself a better version of myself. Because if I can make myself a good enough version of myself, then that version of me won't even want to binge, whilst ignoring the really boring foundation of your 3 meals a day, of having to think about them, plan them, get the food, make the food, eat the food, clear up the food, do it again and again ad infinitum. But this is why I think the two need to happen concurrently, because for many people there is a personal growth and a personal development journey aspect to binge eating recovery, and there is a physiological behavioural aspect to it, which involves looking after this body and finding a way to look after this body which doesn't involve me just constantly beating myself up for feeling like I'm not looking after this body well enough. For some people, the physical aspect of looking after their body, it's easy. They love doing it. It's almost like an identity for them, like to figure out like what are these super nourishing foods that I can feed my body, what's the new ways of moving my body. It's a little bit like people who enjoy cleaning their house. And so if you're like me and you don't like cleaning your house and you resent sometimes having to do all the body admin that comes along with being a human being on the planet. If you're a regular viewer, you'll probably know I have a podcast, Life After Diets. And there was an episode I did with Stephanie Michelle. I think she suggested the title, and it was, Is Recovery Worth It? Find the episode and pop a link or the episode number on the screen now. But I remember that topic confused me at the time because I thought, of course recovery is worth it. Recovery has changed my life. But changing my behaviour was only a small part of it, by which I mean changing my behaviour was, at the same time, it was the outcome of working on being more compassionate towards my emotions and questioning my beliefs, the way I would just attach to anything my mind told me. So if my mind is catastrophizing, I'm believing the catastrophes and everything that it's telling me. But by recognizing that we're just telling ourselves a story constantly, and even if we look back in our lives, we can see how that story can change from one day to the next, depending on our mood, depending on what's happened. But doing that work completely transformed the way I saw life, my life, not just this food aspect, but it did change the way I saw this binge eating problem that I had. And from that perspective, that more compassionate, more self-aware frame, using that as the energy to start changing my behavior and doing things differently was what I needed, because I kept trying to stop binge eating by trying to stop binge eating. I just kept saying to myself, right, I'm just going to behave differently, forgetting that behavior, or probably not even forgetting, just not even knowing that behavior is the last link of the chain. I've spoken about it on another video, but it's worth reiterating, which is the idea that what you are believing and what you are feeling and your biology is what leads to the outcome of your behavior. So behavior is the outcome. So anytime you're jumping in and just trying to change behavior without looking at biology, emotions, or psychology, if this is a problem you are stuck in, you're just going to keep playing out the same cycles over and over and reinforcing the beliefs, the emotions, and the biological responses that are leading to the behavior in the first place. So to loop back to this boring foundational aspect of recovery, which is figuring out how to feed our bodies consistently with variety, foods that we enjoy, but also including some foods that are nourishing to our bodies. And if that is a challenge or that is confusing, that's where we need to do the psychological and emotional work. And you might be thinking, well, that's all very well, Sarah, but I can't afford therapy. I don't have the psychological support to do that work. And to that, I would say, use the resources that are out there. I have over 250 videos on this topic. I have a book that I read out for free on my channel. But be mindful of falling into the trap where you think knowledge is going to be enough. If I watch enough videos, if I read enough books, then I'll be able to change my behavior. But unless you are taking away what you're hearing and really figuring out and practicing, how do I apply this to myself? How can I start to practice the takeaways from these videos? Because knowledge is just philosophy, experience is learning, and this is about trying to do something differently, but then watching how your mind and your emotions react to that, and then trying to respond differently to what your mind and your emotions are doing. Because we get in these loops of thinking and feeling, we get stuck in our own loops, and that's why it feels like we never change. I'll link to a couple of videos at the end, which will really help you to go a bit deeper with some of these ideas, because I appreciate that this is more of abstract, very broad video, and it can be hard to know where to actually start. I think any of this work starts with two things. One, the recognition that what our minds are telling us isn't necessarily true, and that most of the time we are just making up what things mean and then treating that meaning as fact. So, oh, I binged again, so I'm now making that mean I will never recover. I'm a complete failure. When you make it mean that, that's going to keep creating your reality. So looking at what we're making things mean, and the compassion piece. This is not your fault that you struggle with binge eating. Binge eating is a trap, and when you're in it, you just keep looping around and you can't quite figure out how to break the loop. Human beings fall into these kinds of traps all the time with other things as well, not just food. So forgive yourself for being an imperfect human being. Now, as I sign off, some of you leave such lovely comments about the cat, so I'm just going to get them over to say hello. Okay, let's see if this works. What's this? What do I got? What's this? What's this, guys? What is it? What do I got? Are you going to come say hello? What is it? Come on. Come up. Come on. What is it? Oh, kitty cat number one. Hi. Woody, come say hi. Come here. Come here. Come here. You can see I haven't got any treats. I will give them one. Come here. There she is. There she is. I'll put her in focus. Oh, I love these guys so much. But okay, as I said, check out these videos if you want to take some of the things that I've said in this video and figure out how to actually start applying them to make the shifts that you want to make. But until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.